as the federal government directs ministries, departments, and agencies to submit their prioritized list of projects. The mode of funding these capital expenditures, which is largely from debt borrowing, comes under close scrutiny. How Nigeria slumped into a debt profile of $65 billion after 2005 debt relief from the London and Paris Club under the Obasanjo administration now leave Nigerians at a loss with many unanswered questions. Must Nigeria go borrowing? Would this not plunge the country again into another financial burden? What happens to the foreign direct investment, effective tax policy, and public-private sector partnership? It's question time. Welcome to the program. I'm Benga Ashiru. You may also join in this conversation by sending us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. With a projected borrowing of 1.84 trillion naira for the year 2016, the continuous decline in oil production, fluctuating international oil price, and a rather conservative oil benchmark of $38 per barrel, is Nigeria's debt profile approaching a risk threshold? Channels TV crew decided to go find out if Nigeria's debt policy would indeed stimulate economic growth. We met with the Director General of the Debt Management Office, Dr. Abraham Nwankwo. He says never again would Nigeria fall into the web of unsustainable debts. He assured that Nigeria is back on the path of economic recovery with this administration debt strategy. Dr. Abraham Nwankwo, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of Question Time.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Yeah, looking at the debt policy, that takes us back to 2005 when Nigeria achieved a debt cancellation. Many Nigerians thought that that was a burden taken off the country. But it's quite amazing how we slumped to this current debt profile of $65 billion. Could you explain what this means to this country at this point in time?
As you rightly said, the London Club and the Paris Club debts were odious debts, and we needed to take them off, and we did succeed in taking them off. However, that does not mean that as a modern economy, Nigeria was never, ever going to borrow again.
Let me come in here. What makes the London and Paris Club odious debt, and what makes it different from the kind of debt we are having right now?
First of all, those debts were accumulated at a time where Nigeria did not have an agency responsible for public debt management, and therefore nobody could stand his feet and say what should be done, what should be the strategy, what should be the policy, what guidelines for borrowing, and how resources borrowed should be used.
Now, we have an arrangement in which the budget office is under a separate minister and the debt management office is under a separate office.
Before the DMO was established in the year 2000, debt management functions were scattered among various government agencies, including Ministry of Finance, including the Accountant General's office, including the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that was unhealthy. And that's why, as at that time, nobody was exactly sure how much Nigeria owed, because there was no focus of responsibility for managing the country's debt. So that was one of the challenges. And that's why in the wisdom of government under President Obasanjo, the Debt Management Office was established in the year 2000.
Yeah. When you say that nobody knows how much, nobody knew how much Nigeria was owing.
Conflicting figures.
Yeah, yes. When you say that, how did we manage to achieve a debt cancellation? What was the condition? If nobody knew how much we were owing?
That's the point. So there has to be a long process of reconciliation, authentication, and verification to establish. As you are speaking now, you have quoted the figure of what Nigeria owes today, and nobody is disputing it.
But there was a figure when the debt was about to be cancelled.
There has to be some reconciliation, some re-authentication that led to a figure that was eventually dealt with. Are you getting what I'm saying? However, now you have quoted the figure of what Nigeria owes today. You couldn't have done that in 1999 or in 1998. Now, today, you can do that. So, but there had to be a process of reconciliation, re-authentication before a figure was now used as a basis for negotiation for debt cancellation. In any case, one of the arguments for asking for some debt cancellation was that, look, some of the components of the debts were not very clear. And because they were not very clear, it was important that you cancel part of the debt substantially to take into account that even some of them were not clear. But that was the past. Now, so that the past has gone. However, what is the idea of governments about borrowing? Every modern government would borrow. Why? Because revenues accruable to government are not ever enough to solve their immediate problem, particularly if the governments are visionary, if they're looking forward. The government don't want to wait for 10 years to save all the money they needed to build a railway traversing from the coast to the Sahel. Government rather borrow the money today so as to build the rail today, and then use the cash flows collected over the next 10 years to service the debt. That's the idea that modern governments all over the world run with. Okay, and Nigeria is not an exception.
Experts have said that Nigeria's current debt profile is at the risk threshold. Would you agree with this?
I think those who said that are static people. Because you look at the potentials of a country. Their sustainability and risk is a matter not of where you are now, but of your potentials. So people should be talking about what are the potentials of Nigeria. Have we explored our space in agriculture? Have you utilized our space in ICT? Have you utilized our space in solid minerals? We have over 34 solid minerals that are commercially viable. How many of them have been developed, explored, exploited, processed, and used to develop industries in the country and used for exports? How many of them? So when you look at the idle capacity Nigeria has in agriculture, in solid minerals, in manufacturing, in other sectors, then it is wrong for anybody to be talking about Nigeria in negative terms.
Are you worried about the private sector equity and debt, the uncertainty surrounding the private sector equity and debt, and also the public sector revenue, which is adversely affected by the dwindling fortunes from the oil sector?
We are going back to square. That's the point. The government, we all appreciate, every reasonable Nigerian, certainly the government and other entities, every reasonable Nigerian appreciates that where we are is that the collapse of oil prices has once more, because I told you that once more, told you the need to diversify. The issue is not about worrying. The issue is about appreciating that we have opportunities.
So you are insisting that Nigeria's debt profile is not at the risk threshold?
Look, what do you call uncertainty? The uncertainty? Do you have uncertainty that you have capacity for agricultural production to stop importing rice and save foreign exchange and make your currency stronger? Do you have any doubts that you can stop importing fruit juice and that you have enough fruits in Nigeria you can process and therefore you stop importing, rather you export? Do you have any doubt that you should not import most of the textile materials we import should not be imported because we have enough cotton and we have enough cotton factories in Kano and Kaduna and Aba, which process our cotton growing here in Nigeria, which are of the highest qualities in the world? Do you have that? Do you have doubt that we have capacity to produce the best leathers in the world from the northern states of the country, and that those are much of the leather that are used in Italy and other parts of the world? So if you don't have doubt about this, why are you having doubt about the future of your economy? The economy has potentials. We have challenges. What we need is the commitment, the confidence, and the imagination to explore the resources we have. And to, if there are some of the resources, for example, if you don't have adequate capital, in quote, because production is land, labor, and capital. If you don't have adequate capital from internal sources, now let me tell you, even internally, we have some substantial capital. So when people talk of foreign direct investment, I always say we talk of local direct investment and foreign direct investment. So we need a combination of foreign direct investment, local direct investment. However, to make the process of economic turnaround, economic diversification, to make it predictable, certain, the government has to play the lead role. And that is why the government of President Muhammadu Buhari is emphasizing infrastructure, rail, power, roads, security.
You may also join in this conversation by sending us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Coming up on Question Time, how sustainable is Nigeria's debt policy considering the depreciating value of the naira? Find out from the Director General of the Debt Management Office after the break.